Welcome back to the Open Wheel Offline League Season 4 Indy 300 qualifying weekend. We're here in day 2 in round 2 with the top 12 in yesterday's qualifying. Now go out today and they're going to see who makes the Fast 6. You have to be in the top 6 to advance to the next round, as Chet Jordan will be the first one to take to the track. You can see on your left where everyone qualified yesterday out of those that are not taking part in today's session, and the order in which the 12 that advanced will go. It goes from 12th from yesterday to 1st. Chet Jordan, first car out. He had a tumultuous day yesterday, but they figured it out at the end of the day, and he's out now. Track temp 97 degrees, so much hotter than it was at this time the day before. So we may not see as quick of speeds as we saw yesterday, as the first lap, not a particular fast one, 235.337. Now, one thing of note is that all these drivers will be earning points regardless of where they qualify. If they qualify 12th, they'll get 1 point, but if they get pole, they get 12 points, and it goes down from there. But Chet Jordan, not the strongest opening lap. If that took place yesterday, he'd actually be down in 23rd. But luckily, he's already locked into the top 12, as this one not much faster, 235.861. So we're not seeing blistering speeds that we saw yesterday, about 2 miles per hour off. The highest average that we saw yesterday was a 238 set by David Malukas, with 3 out of his 4 laps being above 238. But yeah, Chet Jordan had a rough day yesterday, but luckily he sees today, as next lap is better, 236.041, so he's gotten faster with each lap. Right now his average at 235.7. As final lap, right now the wind is pushing to the north, so we'd expect to see bigger speeds down the backstretch. But here he comes to the line, and this is the best one so far. It's actually a very good final lap. 237.267, so nearly a whole mile per hour gain on his final lap, which will put his average just above 236. So a strong run from Jordan will take him to the top. He's going to need to stay above the top 6. You only get 1 run today as opposed from yesterday, so you've got to make it count. As up next is the 64 of Ryan Preece. He got the pole here last season. He's looking for 2 in a row, 3 in a row this season for poles. Through 1 and 2, and it looks pretty good. Here we go down the backstretch, 244 into the turn. As now 240, 241, 240. So it's actually faster down the front stretch. My apologies, as his first lap is competitive with Jordan's last lap, 237.135. Ryan Preece didn't show a lot of speed yesterday, but right now he's showing some strength, almost a whole mile per hour up on Jordan's average. Off turn 4, let's see what he has this time by. And it's even better, 237.536. Right now he's looking good. Just 6 more corners to go. In just under 4 miles. Up to 238 going into the short chute, and now back down the front stretch, pick up the speed. As let's see. And it's even faster once again. 237.881. Gaining speed with each lap. And he's currently up on Jordan's average by almost a mile per hour and a half. Strong speed being shown by the 64 car. 2 Team Eggs cars made it into round 2, with unfortunately Jacob Abel starting from last place. As to the line, and it's faster once again. Ryan Priest showing up today, 238.120, and that will put his average as a 237.668. Now that is some pretty strong speed out of the 64 car. He's trying to make it 2 poles in a row here, 3 poles in a row this season. This would be his 4th one just in this season alone. He is the first winner, or I'd say first pole sitter, to win a race from pole this season, as that is a strong average that Chet Jordan's going to have to compete with. Up next is Guy Gagne for Viking Racing. Viking Racing got 2 cars in. The 3rd one, Brennan Hubbard, will start inside row 7 in 19th place. Guy Gagne had to bump his way back into the top 12 after getting knocked out. He did so later in the day. Through the short chute and off turn 4. Let's see what the speed is in this 90. 45 at the line, and it looks to be another solid first lap. Just under 237, 236.880. So he's currently tracking 2nd, with a solid average going on right now. But he's gonna have to hold it. So far, both Jordan and Priest got better with each lap, and Gagne's going to go faster on lap 2. This one's going to be just over 237 at a 237.073. That puts his average just shy of 237, but comfortably ahead of Chet Jordan. Off turn 4 for lap number 3, white flag. And this lap, it's going to be faster once again, 237.267. And right now he is tracking 0.6 off Priest, but about a mile per hour above Chet Jordan. Gagne looks comfortable, and he's going to bring it off turn 4. Let's see what the number 90 for Viking Racing has. And for the first time in this run, the 4th lap is slower. Not too far off his previous one. It's going to be a 237.254. So the average is a 237.119. That's going to put him in second place at the moment. So a solid effort from the number 90 team. As up next, Chet Jordan's teammate, the 33 of Marcus Armstrong, wanted to go out yesterday a second time, didn't quite get out, but the number 33 made it safely into round 2. Right now, Chet Jordan looking a little bit uneasy, with the next time being a whole mile per hour above him. So Armstrong gonna need to find some speed. 244 into turn 3. Gonna have to see what he has at the line. Gagne had about a 245. Picking up the speed. At 245, it's gonna be a bit slower than Gagne's first lap, but faster than Jordan's at a 236.761. So, not too far off Gagne on his first lap, but currently tracking third. Gonna need to see more speed out of it. You want to stay in the top half, as it's the top 6 that move on, while the bottom 6 are eliminated in set row 3 and 4. Second lap, oh, and it's slower. A 235.719. Not sure what happened on that lap, but that is a pretty significant decrease. And now he's just above Chet Jordan in third place. Dives it into turn 3. We heard that his name could be on the chopping block in the coming races if he does not improve his racecraft. But right now, he's really trying his best to qualify out here. Third lap is his best one so far. Is it enough? It is a 237.085. That's faster, but still tracking in third with a 236.5 average. So about 4/10 above Chet Jordan and about 6/10 behind Gagne. As here comes Armstrong to finish his run. Fourth lap is also a decrease, and that is going to be a 237.023. So final lap, a 236.6 average. That'll put him in third place. Jordan still at the bottom. Priest remains on top. As up next is the other Team Eggs car, the number 30 of Robbie Lohr. Fighting for a championship, needs to make sure he has everything on the line. 248 into turn 1. We haven't seen someone hit 250 yet, but he looked pretty close to getting there. We're going to have to see what he has going into turn 3. 42, 43. I see a 44 holds it. As now he goes into turn 3. Will not dip below 230, as here he comes to the line. 245 at the line. First lap is a 237.011. So not too far off Ryan Priest's first lap. Gonna have to see if he can keep building the speed, but right now he is tracking third. But if his average continues to rise, he should get by Gagne and be competitive with Priest. Lap 2. Let's see what the number 30 has. And it's better. 2:37.505. That about matches, just a little bit slower, like 3/100ths slower than Priest's second lap, but he is now tracking second ahead of Gagne. Into turn 4. See if the 30 can keep it up. 46 at the line. Third lap, not as good as his last lap. It's a 2:37.467. And now he's starting to lose sight of Priest. But still looking good in second place. But we're going to have to see if that is enough to advance him. Back onto the front stretch. Checkered flag. And it's his best lap so far. With a 2:37.9 flat. And that is going to put his average at a 2:37.471. So comfortably in second place. Priest still untouched at the top. That was the closest that he's been to being unseated. The first of the Lore brothers have now gone. And he's looking pretty good. Up next is the 77 of Stingray Rob. Yesterday, some interesting choices from the team set him backwards. He looked to be in 5th, and then went back out, but in the fast lane, and dropped all the way down to 18th, which put him outside row 6. But then he got back in, went 5th place. After some shuffling, he got dropped to 7th. But this will be the last one before we start seeing who gets bumped out of round 3. First lap, and it's a 2:36.823. That is closest. That is about right in the middle of Gagne and Armstrong's first lap. But right now his average is tracking him 4th, just below the midway point. He'd like to find more pace out of this. Off turn 4. Lap 2. And it's slower. 2:36.506. And now his average is about 2/100ths over Armstrong's final average, currently tracking 4th still. Needs to find more pace out of it. Bounding into turn 4. Let's see what he has. Onto the front stretch. Third lap, best one so far. 2:37.348, so that is a big jump. That puts his average at a 2:36.89. Still in 4th, but that's bridging the gap between Gagne and Armstrong. Into turn 3 for the final time, now into turn 4. Does he have enough to make it to round 2? Or 3, I should say. Checkered flag. And it's not the greatest final lap. I saw off of turn 4 he was kind of offline. 2:36.581 to end his run. That is the slowest finishing lap speed that we've seen so far, but he will still be in 4th. And that's going to put Chet Jordan as the first one on the cut line. So Stingray Rob P4 with an average of 236.815. Now after this is when we're going to start seeing some cars getting bumped out of the Fast 6 and some cars being guaranteed in. Up next, Louis Foster. He qualified at the hottest part of the day yesterday, but made it safely into round 2. So did his teammate Dorian Pin. This is his first time doing Indy qualifying for Open Wheel Offline League. A rookie to the Indy 300. Into the short chute, off turn 4. Let's see what kind of speed this car has. To the line, and that is a very good first lap. That is a first lap of 2:37.555. That is the best one that we've seen so far. Currently, that puts his average in 2nd, about 1/10 of a mile per hour off Ryan Preece. Needs to find more pace on this 2nd lap if he wants to get it done. But right now, his average is tracking 4/10 off the first lap. 2nd lap, let's see what he has. It's faster, but just a tick. 2:37.580. And that is only a little bit better than Preece's 2nd lap. So he is now down by exactly 1/10 of a mile per hour with an average of 2:37.568 to Preece's .668. Lap 3 into turn 4. Does not drop below 2:32. This 3rd lap could be pretty quick, as I was wrong. 3rd lap is his slowest so far, 2:37.411. This is 4/10 off of Preece's 3rd lap. And now his average is closer to Robbie's, who's in 2nd, but looks like he may stay above unless this lap drops off. Gotta have to be a strong final lap from Louis Foster. And it's a pretty good one. 2:37.950 to end his qualifying run. Had just enough at the end, but his average will be just shy of Ryan Preece's with an average of .624 to Preece's .668. So Robbie now drops to 3rd, Gagne 4th, Rob 5th. Armstrong will now be on the cut line, and Chet Jordan is done. He will not qualify in the first 2 rows and will not be in the Fast 6 shootout for pole. But Ryan Preece, his speed is just enough to guarantee him in already. He'll be the first driver in the Fast 6. Coming up next, Miles Rowe was around the cutoff for most of the day, and then a late run pushed him from row 5 to what would have been middle of row 2. This is Eventide Racing's first Indy 300, first time having to qualify. Yuki Tsunoda had a kind of a rough time, but he qualifies middle of row 6. As that is a big lift off turn 4 for Miles Rowe. Dropped almost all the way down to 210 miles per hour, and this will simply just not be enough. Already in one turn, it doesn't seem like he has it, as that first lap is a 2:32.955. So, safe to say Louis Foster will advance and Miles Rowe will not. We're just trying to see if he has anything that would get him ahead of some of the guys coming up behind. Keeps it flat in turn 4 this time by. And it's a pretty big improvement, 4/10 of a second improvement, and nearly 3 whole miles per hour at 235.030. It's going to raise his average to a 233.99, but still simply not good enough. And that is another big lift on lap 3. Just not confident with the car that he was yesterday. That is going to be another quite slow lap once again. 233.53 on that third lap. So checkered flag, looks like he'll probably be starting in row 4. But very good effort by Miles Rowe yesterday to just get into the top 12. And he'll at least earn 1 or 2 bonus points out of this. As his final lap, by far his best one, will be a 236.351. So a solid end to his qualifying effort, but he will go to the bottom in P8. That will keep Marcus Armstrong just above for now, but we've got some heavy hitters coming up behind. So next up, Louis Foster looked pretty good. Now it's his teammate, Dorian Pin, sporting a new livery in that teal 03, now sponsored by TCR Japan. Armstrong on the cutoff, Louis Foster guaranteed into the Fast 6. Let's see if his teammate can do the same. This would bump out Marcus Armstrong. Into turns 3 and 4. The average well, right now the speed just dropped to 231, but at the line it's going to be a 245. First lap, not too shabby. 237.217. That is the second best first lap, just behind Louis Foster's. But if she wants to get in, she's going to need to pick up the pace, currently tracking in P4 with that first lap. Right behind Robbie, just ahead of Gagne. So needs a steady improvement. Goes down to 231 again, but a lot more brief. 246 at the line. This lap is faster. 237.492. That is the 4th fastest second lap. Average is now a 237.355. Still tracking in P4. Needs a little bit more speed. Gonna have to see if this third lap stays up. Once again drops to 231. And it's faster. So continuing to increase. It's a 237.687. That is the second best third lap that we've seen. And her average is now a 0.465. Just shy of Robbie's average of 0.471. We're going to have to see if she can hold it on her 4th and final lap. Right now it doesn't look good for Marcus Armstrong. We're going to see who gets guaranteed in. Is it the 03 or the 30? 4th lap is her best. And that is an average of 237.938 over that 4th lap. for a total average of 237.584, and that will put her into P3, just behind teammate Louis Foster. Robbie not guaranteed into the next round just yet, as Marcus Armstrong will be eliminated from qualifying further. But Dorian Pin, we know there was speed in that car with what she was able to do yesterday at the hottest time of the day when no one else was going fast besides her and her teammate, but still playing just behind Louis Foster. As next up, led for most of yesterday until the final few minutes, it's Connor Zilich. Just touches 248 entering turn 1, teammate Guy Gagné in 5th, as Stingray Rob now on the cut line in P6. Trying to see if Zilich or Robbie will guarantee their way into the next round. Down into turn 3. Now into turn 4. Touches 231. Let's see what this first lap has. And it's a pretty solid first lap. 237.198. That is just a little bit better than Priest's first lap. Right now that first lap would put him in 5th. Just ahead of his teammate Guy Gagné. Through turn 4 and onto the front stretch. See what the speed is? It's a little bit better. 237.386. Not as much of a speed gain as some of the other guys have had. That is the 5th best second lap. Now his average is a 237.292. Still looking at about 5th place right here. Gonna need to find some more speed if he wants to make sure he's safe into the next round. Has to beat Robbie's speed of 0.471. That is the time to beat for the number 9 team. And third lap is his best, so he continues to improve. Third lap is a 237.856. That is the second best third lap. That jumps his average all the way up to a 0.480. So now he's tracking 4th and trying to guarantee his way into the next round. At this pace, it looks likely. Stingray Rob in trouble. Off turn 4 and heading to the start-finish line. Number 9, Connor Zilich, checkered flag. It's a little bit slower on this final lap. 237.749. But that is still a very good effort, as that will put him up into P4 and guaranteed into the next round with an average of 237.547. Robbie now bumped down to 5th. Gagné 6th. And Stingray Rob will go no further in qualifying. Only 2 cars left to go. So Robbie still has the time to beat to guarantee your way in. And then Guy Gagné on the cut line at a 0.119. Up next, Glubler. He also kind of played a little bit around the cut line, but had a fantastic late run late in the day that put him temporarily P1 just to immediately be beaten by David Malukas. .245 into turn 3. Looks pretty good so far, but drops all the way down to a 228 in turn 4. Is this good enough? First lap doesn't look the strongest. 2:36.718. Right now, that first lap would put him in 8th place, right behind teammate Stingray Rob. But that first lap is about a tenth, almost 2 tenths off Guy Gagne's first lap. So needs to find more pace out of this 00 car if he wants to move on. Off turn 4, heading to the start-finish line. It's faster, but I don't think it's quite fast enough. 2:36.767. So right now his average still just behind teammate Stingray Rob in 8th place. Right now, big brother Robbie looks to be in a slightly better spot. Off turn 4 and to the line. Lap number 3 has to be a big improvement, and it's a pretty decent improvement. 2:37.392. That is better than Gagne's third lap, but is it enough? 2:36.959 is now the average that Glubler has. That is 2 tenths off Gagne's average. He needs a big boost here on this final lap. And it looks to be pretty good off turn 4. Heading to the start-finish line. Is it enough? And it is a 2:37.498. And that will put his average at a 2:37.094. That is not good enough to beat Guy Gagne, as Glubler will be eliminated. But got very close, as Robbie, his big brother, is guaranteed into the next round. Glubler will not advance. He's gotten pole here before, and a pretty strong effort. Just outqualifies teammate Stingray Rob, but only by a little bit. So it all comes down to Guy Gagne versus David Malukas in the 25 car. Who's got what it takes? So Guy Gagne first lap was a 2:36.88. Gonna have to see what David Malukas can do. Teammate Catherine Legg did not have a good day yesterday. Qualified only 18th. As into turn 3. Let's see what he has. Gonna try and contend for pole. Only driver to have an average above 2:38 in a qualifying attempt this weekend. First lap, does he have enough? And it looks to be a 2:36.923. That is better than Gagne. But right now, that first lap average would put him in P8. So needs to find a little bit more. But that first lap was good enough to beat Gagne. Right now, he's tracking ahead, lap by lap. Gonna have to see the second lap. And it's faster. It's one of the fastest. It is the third fastest second lap that we've seen so far. 2:37.517. And Guy Gagne looks to be in trouble, as that was a whole half a mile per hour faster than Gagne's second lap. As Malukas' average right now is a .220, that would put him just in P6. Which would mean he'd be the first driver to go out again in the Fast 6. Off turn 4 to the line. And it's slower. He goes slower. That is a 237.179. That is going to drop his average. But he's still up with an average of .206. Gagne had a little bit better than of a third lap, but that second lap might be enough to keep him in. It's going to be close. Malukas versus Gagne. 243, 244 at the line. It's his best lap, but is it enough? 237.567. That will be just enough to move him on to the next round with an average of .297. So David Malukas will take P6 and knock Guy Gagné out just barely. And that is what this knockout qualifying is all about. Right at the end. Kind of like a buzzer beater. That is just enough to keep David Malukas alive. We're going to step away for just a moment and prepare for the Fast Six. That is quite loud and in my ear. We'll prepare for the Fast Six and re-rack and go again. We are back for the Fast Six here at Indianapolis. The sun now on the track as we get set to go. David Malukas, we just saw in round two, but we go in reverse order of how the round two results went. So Malukas gets to go first. It's not been the greatest of seasons since Sandown all the way back in race two, but looking to turn it around now. 248 into the turn. Weather, track temp a lot cooler than it was last round. Can he put up the 238s that he did before? .245 into the turn. Wind speed still to the north. Off turn 4. And to the start finish line. First lap. And it's a big one. 237.774. That is a strong opening lap. Much better than what he had last round. We're going to have to see if the speed will go up, stay the same, go down, be all over the place. Right now it looks very good. No one to compare it to yet, though. Second lap, is it better? It's not. It's a little bit slower. 237.498. So lost nearly 3/10 there. Average is down to a .636. It's 245 entering turn 3. See what they have once they get to the line. And it goes slower once again. 237.448. Not as much of a fall off, but his average continues to go down. 237.573. Now his current average, we're going to have to see if he can pick it up on this fourth lap. Either way, starting in the first two rows, but you would love to start on pole. Most bonus points and leading the field to green. As here he comes to the line, and it's his best one. Best lap comes as the final one, 238.114. A lot of fall off, but gets it done. As that will put him at the top, but yet no competition just yet. Already faster than the best average we saw last round. As now, let's see what the number 30 has to show for it. 248 into turn 1, but kind of offline, not as close to the white line as you'd like to be. Much better line in turn 2. Get no second chance, so whatever you've got here is all that you have. Into 3 and 4. On to the start finish straight. First lap, pretty good. That is a 237.555. That is 2/10 off of Malukas's first lap. So right now, a little bit behind. But Malukas had some pretty big bleed off from lap 1 to lap 2. But you got to be careful about that fourth and final lap. That was Malukas's monster lap. Off turn 4 and to the line, and it's his slowest. Has a 237.067. So that was behind Malucas's by about 4/10. Needs to find something. Right now his average just a little too far behind. Gonna need a monstrous third lap. And then even then he still has to compete with that fourth lap. And that is the slowest lap so far between Malukas and Robbie. I don't think he has enough. 236.774. That will drop his average to a 237.132. I don't think he has enough for pole, but could he put it on the front row? Is there enough there? Throwing it into turn 4. Let's see what he has. It's not his best lap, unlike Malukas. 237.505, that will bring his average back up to a 237.225. Not as fast as the average he put up last round. And right now he will slot in behind Malukas. So P2 currently. As now let's go to the number 9 of Connor Zilich. 248 into turn 1 pretty comfortably. Again, kind of offline. Gonna have to see what he can do. Flying down the backstretch, 244. Not as fast as Malukas was able to do in turn 3. He'll trickle down to 231. Now let's see what he has. First lap, and it is the slowest first lap that we've seen so far. 237.373. So not fast enough, needs to find more pace. See if the second lap can be any better. But the second lap has had bleed off from the first 2 cars that we've seen. What does he have? First one to go better on the second lap. That may be enough to help him. 237.536. That is the best second lap that we've seen so far. His average is now 0.455. Obviously in the 237s. He was about 4/10 off Malukas' first lap and about half a tenth faster on the second lap. We're going to have to see if he can keep it up on the third lap. And it's his best lap. He continues to go faster. 237.932. That is the best lap that we've seen so far, besides Malukas' final lap. 0.614 is his average. He is not far behind David Malukas. That was very big, and I think that is currently putting him above. But he needs to keep it up on this fourth lap. Can't lose too much time. And his fourth lap not as fast. That is a 237.480. His second slowest. That'll drop his average to a 0.580. Not enough to contend with David Malukas' fourth big lap. That will put him ahead of Robbie. So a good effort from Viking Racing, but not good enough to put it on pole. As now we head to the 03. Let's see what Swindlers of the Immortals have brought. Not the fastest that we've seen into turn 1. Drops to 230 coming off turn 2. But is there more speed down the backstretch? D45. Right now we have a front row filled out. Robbie on the cut, David Malukas on pole. Let's see what this first lap is for the 03. And it is a 2:38.051. That is the fastest first lap. We're going to have to see if she can keep the average up. That is about 3/10 faster than Malukas' first lap. Looks good so far, but will it stay that way? Into turn 4. Now heading down the front stretch. And it's slower the second lap. 2:37.950, still very fast and very much ahead of David Malukas, about half a mile per hour up on Malukas' second lap. Current average is a 2:38.001. Can she keep that average in the 2:38s? Third lap just barely drops to a 2:32 coming off turn 4 at the line, and it is the fastest so far that we have seen at a 2:38.253. Right now, it looks to be slipping out of David Malukas' hands and right into the hands of Dorian Pin. Currently the fastest that we've seen so far. Once again, just barely into 2:32 coming off turn 4 and to the checkered flag. And it's her fastest right at the end. 2:38.316. That is the fastest one that we've seen so far. And that is going to put her average at a 2:38.143, which is faster than Malukas' average yesterday. And that is going to be tough to beat. But if there's anyone that can do it, it's the two coming up. Dorian Pin has not out-qualified Louis Foster this season. And will it stay that way? A 2:38.143, that is a monstrous average to beat. But Louis Foster has kept Pin at arm's length. So let's see what he has. Into turn 1. And it looks quite good so far. Gonna have to see what he has going down the backstretch. 44, 45. So he also hits 245. The 11 team looks quite quick. To the line. And that is the fastest first lap that we've seen. That is a 2:38.265 to start his run. 2:38.265. That is 2/10 faster than Pin's first lap. Let's see if he has fall off on the second lap. Pin had just a little bit, only lost about 1/10 between first and second lap. to the line. And it's slower, but how much slower? It is a 2:38.177. That is still about 2/10 up on Dorian Pin. Right now, we're looking at a monster average, possibly, for this 11 team. He's not gotten a pole. So this would be a massive performance out of the 11 Swindlers of the Immortals car. Third lap, and it is his fastest. 2:38.335. That is faster than Pin's final lap. And unless he has a big fall off here, I think we're looking at who could be a pole setter unless Ryan Preece has something to say about it. Into turn 3 and 4. The number 11 of Louis Foster, he's going to get to the line. And that is his fastest lap. And the fastest lap that we've seen so far, 2:38.423. And that is going to put his average at a 2:38.3 flat. That is going to be very tough to compete with. Then also knock Connor Zilic off the front row. But Louis Foster looks to be the guy. Unless Ryan Preece has something to say about it. Went from 11th quick on Friday to fastest not too long ago. Drops to 2:30 coming off turn 2. Is it good enough? It didn't look too great going into turn 3. We'll have to see what he has coming off turn 4. Drops to a 2:31. To the line, is it good enough? And it's not quite there. 2:37.386. That is the 5th fastest first lap that we've seen. That is a whole mile per hour off Louis Foster's average. And nearly a whole mile per hour off of just his first lap. It was his second slowest lap. He's going to need a massive improvement here. He's more looking at just trying to get onto the front row. Lap 2. And it's his best so far. Third fastest second lap, 2:37.932. That is just a tick off Pin's second lap. That boosts his average to a .659. He is just behind David Malukas. Looking at 2 back-to-back front row starts, but it doesn't look to be 2 back-to-back first positions to start the race. Off turn 4 and to the start-finish line for lap 3. And it's just a tick faster. 2:37.976. And that looks to be just ahead of David Malukas' average with a .765. But who's gonna get there? Coming off turn 4, checkered flag, final qualifying run of the weekend. And Ryan Preece, just a tad slower on this final lap than his previous one, but a 2:37.969. That's going to put his average at a .816 and will put him on the front row in P3. Very good performance from the number 64, but it is not 3 back-to-back poles in the Open Wheel Offline League. Still a very good performance from the number 64, but it is the number 11 of Louis Foster who tops the speed charts today. As now we get a look at our full starting grid. As there's the man who did it. 238.3 flat. Let's go through this full starting grid. So, starting grid of the Indy 300, the fourth running of the Indy 300. On row 1 will be the 11 of Louis Foster in his first attempt at it, with teammate Dorian Pin in the middle, and then Ryan Preece on the outside for his third attempt. Row 2, David Malukas just not enough to put it on the front row, but right next to him will be Connor Zilic in the middle, and then Robbie Lohr on the outside, right behind his teammate. Row 3, just not enough to make it into the Fast 6. Guy Gagné in his second attempt had a strong performance. Glubler Lohr could not get the energy of his pole, and then teammate Stingray Rob will be on his outside. As now we go back to row 4, and we've got Marcus Armstrong on the inside, basically fighting for his career as we hear, with teammate Chet Jordan in the middle, and then Miles Rowe on the outside. Then as we go back into the second half of the grid, row 5 just didn't make it into round 2. 95 of Ethan Martz bumped late. Gale Barnhart had a pretty rough qualifying, but that was the best he could scrap together. And then Shane Van Gisbergen didn't make round 2, despite his teammate on pole. There's some questions being raised about that, but this is his first Indy 300 since the first running, where he scored pole. Row 6, Callum Ilott will be on the inside, with Yuki Tsunoda, who also had a rough time yesterday, in the middle. And then on the outside will be the 07 of Capron Legg. As we go into the final 2 rows, row 7 will be the 99 of Brendan Hubbard in his first attempt at it. Mahavir Raghunathan in his fourth attempt at it. One of the few drivers to be here for all attempts at it. And then Lindsey Brewer, last race winner here. Looking for a strong performance. Benjamin Peterson in his first race here is going to be on the inside of the final row, with Alessio Deletta in the middle. And then bringing up the rear will be the 75 of Jacob Abel. So that is your starting grid for the Indy 300, which will take place on Wednesday. And I hope to see you guys there.